Happy Easter, everybody. Hi, I'm Cindy Wider, a Derwent ambassador. Some of you would know me from drawpj.com. Hi to my members. How are you tonight? Well, it's today for some of you, so it'll be during the day, but here it's night in Cairns, Australia. Now, Derwent have asked me to create this draw-along program for you, and I'm really excited about it. I've chosen for you to colour along Miss Daisy Nibbles with me. So she's a little Easter bunny, a cute little Easter bunny, and by now, hopefully you've been over and you've collected your outline drawing. And once you've got your outline drawing printed and ready to go, hopefully you've got your pencils as well. It'll be good to make sure they're all sharpened and ready to go. I will give you another few little tips just before we get started on how to prepare your pencils for that. Now, if you've got any questions, make sure you ask Judith, because she'll be there and she'll be able to answer your questions. So I'm not looking at the screen at the moment, the Facebook screen just yet. Now, I'm going to give you a few minutes just to gather all your materials and get ready. And while I'm doing that, I'm just going to put my camera into a little holder so that you can see my drawing. So just bear with me for a minute while I just switch it around. So hopefully you can see my little Miss Daisy Nibbles. I'm just going to plug it in as well. Oops, it's a bit wobbly, sorry about that. So just plugging that in. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen really well there. You can see Miss Daisy Nibbles. There she is. So, this is what we're going to be doing this evening. And I'm going to be talking to you about a few little things just before we get started. First of all, I'll walk you through your materials. So hopefully you've got a pencil sharpener, a little piece of sandpaper, and of course you've got pastel pencils. Now it's okay if you don't have pastel pencils because you can use coloured pencil, but what you might find is that your texture will be a little bit more coarse than mine. And also when I blend, you won't need to blend with the cotton bud. So we've also got some cotton buds. Make sure you've got those. So when I'm doing my blending, you won't need to do that. You won't need to blend. So I'm just having a little chat while you're all still coming in and just walking through the art materials. Now, some of you will have already looked at the pre-instruction video that I gave you. Now, if you have seen that, then you'll be all ready to go. You'll have all your pencils sharpened and prepared and able to go ahead. So I'm just going to wait for a little bit while everybody still keeps coming in and getting organised, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. So that is Miss Daisy Nibbles. Now what we're going to be doing, we're going to walk through by doing the fur first. So I will take you through drawing all of her fur first, just colouring that in. And when we've coloured in all the fur and a bit of her basket as well, then I'll show you how to colour the dress. We're just using 3 different browns. So just 3 browns to colour her fur. We're going to have a beautiful light brown, and then a nice medium warm brown, and then a dark chocolate brown to do her fur. So we're going to get started very shortly colouring her in, and just before I do that, I'm going to show you how to prepare your pencil tips in case you missed the pre-instruction video that I sent out. Okay, so if you're watching the recording of this and you've missed this live show, then you'll have time to go and watch the pre-recording. I'm just going to give a quick little refresher how to prepare your pastel pencils. So I like to prepare pastel pencils and my colour pencils as well, a special way. Now I'm going to be talking only about pastel pencils right at the moment. The way that I prepare my pastels is I create what I call a chisel point tip. And first of all, I sharpen my pencil to a beautiful sharp tip, but not too long. So I hold the pencil sharpener really still, and then I spin, very, very gently, spin the pencil in the sharpener. Now, I don't expose too much of the tip because you have to be really careful with pastels. They can break very, very easily. Now, once I've prepared that tip, then, I'll just remove that for a minute. Then I take my piece of sandpaper and I just shave the sandpaper while my pencil's on a slight angle. It's about 30 degrees off the surface of the sandpaper. And I just shave that back and forth. I don't know if you can see that sideways, but what I'm doing is I'm just shaving it back and forth, And then I've worn down that tip, and you can see this beautiful little tip. And it's got two areas that we're going to be using. One is the very sharp edge, the tip of the pencil, and the other area is a flat area. So this is a large ellipse-like shape. And we're going to use this area here to shade larger areas, and the very tip to create our lines and edges of the drawing. So this is how you need to prepare your pencils now before we get started. Now, even if you're using coloured pencils, you need to sharpen your pencil the same way. And if you don't have any sandpaper, don't worry too much. You can do two things. You can have an emery board if you've got one of those laying around, or you can just rub the pencil on your piece of paper. Now, just before we begin, I hope you printed out Miss Daisy Nibbles so that she's ready for you to colour in. And I've actually printed mine onto a sheet of watercolour paper. You could use any cartridge paper, especially if you're using coloured pencil. With pastels, it's nice to have a little bit of texture on your paper. Not too much though, otherwise the image will look a little bit too rough. So just a nice textured paper. If you haven't got any of those, just use ordinary printing paper and you can colour in with pencils, just normal coloured pencils. So we're just about to get started now. The colour that I'm using first of all is yellow ochre, and it's P580 in the Derwent Pastel range. Now remember, you don't have to be using this range. You can use any pastels that you have on hand and any colour pencils that you have on hand. This is what I'm preferring to use. The first thing that I'm doing with Miss Daisy Nibbles is I'm going to be laying on the very light colour. Now just before I do that, I will talk to you about the light and shadow. So let's have a look here. So now, can everybody see this? I'll just let you see it a little bit closer up. I'm just going to zoom my camera in. If you could just hold on a second, just so you can see it closer. Okay, I'll move that down a bit later on, but I'm just zooming it in a little bit now so that you can see where I'm shading. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm going over Miss Daisy Nibbles and all of her fur and just covering it with my beautiful pale yellow-brown colour. It's a gorgeous colour. This is the yellow ochre. I'm going to be doing that to cover all of that, and then I'll move into some shadows. So you can now colour along with me. Let's start inside the ear. Now you'll see that the pastel covers the page very, very quickly. And when I'm covering with my pastel, I'm doing two things. I'm going darker in some areas and lighter in others, just by adding a tiny bit more pressure. And then I'll flip my pencil over and just fill in some areas just a little bit. The two differences though are that I am leaving less pastel in some darker areas and then less pastel in some lighter areas as well. So I'll talk to you about those as I go. So in this area here, I'm just pressing lightly. The reason why I'm doing that is because later I'm going to come back and I'm going to put some shadow onto her. So I'm just going lightly all through this area here. Just nice and lightly. I'll try and go a little bit slower for you to draw along. Now at the moment, I'm just applying all of the pastel pencil, and in a moment, I'm going to blend that. And notice how I dodged around her eye. I've left her eye blank. I'm coming down now around her cute little muzzle there, just the top underneath her lip, coming down under her chin. Can you see how that beautiful surface, that large surface, is helping me to cover so quickly? It's one of the things I love about that tip preparation. That's called the chisel point tip. I don't even need to stop to re-prepare that. Now I'm leaving out some white spaces. This is for the full highlights, so just make sure you do that too. Just leave out the middle section there, and then leave out this little panel across the top of her nose. In the course materials list, you'll notice that I said an eraser pencil. So I've got my eraser pencil ready here. You can use that very easily just to erase out a little bit more of the pastels if you feel that you've covered it too much. And pastels do erase really easily. So now that we've done that, I'm going to move down and I'm going to do the same thing, just covering her arm. There is an area of highlight we're going to leave blank just here. You can do that too. Just draw a big oval on the top of her arm and a little oval on the other side. We're going to leave that area blank because that's going to be a highlight a bit later on. So just cover around the edge. Now highlights are the place where the light first hits the form, and it's the lightest part of her fur. Now you can press softer under here, under the little pores, because later I'm going to add some darker tones. And again over here, just press that little bit softer in her pores. I'm going to add some darker tone because they'll be in shadow later. Then we're going to make our way down to her legs. Hoping that you can see her little legs there nice and clearly. And again, we're going to leave some lighter area on the top of her foot. There we go, 2 little ovals left behind. They're our highlight areas. The light's coming from this side, so it's just lighting up her form in those places. You can see how quickly it covers. It's just amazing. And even if you're using coloured pencil prepared with this tip, you'll find the same thing. Now the benefit of using the pastel pencils is now I'm going to be able to blend that with my cotton bud. So you can pick up your cotton bud if you're using pastel pencils, but if you're using colour pencil, you'll find that this won't blend because the colour pencil is a different pigment altogether. And I don't suggest at this stage that you use any blending mediums or anything because that will make your paper too wet. So right now, I'm just going to go through and blend this. So if you're using colour pencil, you can just keep on colouring in your fur. Now, if there are any areas that you feel haven't really covered too well, you can go back and you can pick up your pencil again and you can fill in some little areas just with the tip, just by spinning over your pencil, filling it with a tip. Now, if you're using coloured pencil, just ordinary coloured pencil, then I suggest you do that. You don't need to worry too much about it if you've got pastels, because with the pastels, we can blend it. So just spend some time now just relaxing, just enjoying that beautiful golden hue. This is just our first layer of fur. And pastels are amazing. You just layer them to get some great results. I'm just going around the edge of those highlight areas, just softening them a little tiny bit too at this stage. It's very quick because I don't want to overwork the surface. I'm not spending very much time there at all because I don't want to ruin the paper surface. This paper has to take a few layers. Just 3 layers is all we're doing. So I don't want to ruin that surface at all. There we go, that's our first layer. I'll just give you a minute to catch up because some of you might still be putting pencil on. And remember that this is going to be recorded as well, so you will be able to see it afterwards. So just remember, don't worry too much. Have a look at the recording afterwards and you can catch up. Now I'm going to move into the second pencil. This is a medium tone and I've chosen this particular colour. It's the terracotta because I love that beautiful warmth in there. I want it to have a lovely warm brown. Now you can see I've already prepared my tip, and while I'm chatting you can prepare yours. Just remember that you can shave it on the sandpaper, keep it on an angle. If you're having any trouble with your tip preparation at all, just write it into the little box and I will be answering some questions afterwards as well. So I'll pop back in later tonight and tomorrow to check any questions that specifically require me to answer. So now I've got my chisel point tip ready. Are you ready for this next layer? I'm so excited. Now what I want you to do with this layer, I really want you to work with me because we're going to be putting the shadows on now, okay? It's not this real dark shadow yet, that's going to come next. We're going to be putting on a medium tone which goes underneath this other darker tone, and we'll be shading in these areas that you see here. These are the shadows, and you know what? It's super easy because all we're doing is following the shape of the form. Make sure you leave the edge free. See how we've got that lovely golden glow around the edge? That's because we're not going to put any of this tone onto that edge. We're colouring just within the edge of the form. So just slowly follow along with me. We can have lots of fun as we start to put her colour on. Now I'm starting in the base of the ear, so you can start with me. And look how I'm using the very tip of my pencil. So let's just add some colour. Don't add too much, don't press too hard. You only need to add a little bit. It's surprising how much these pastels cover the surface of the paper. So I'm just adding a little bit of colour in here. See how I'm just stroking upwards? I'm using the side now of the tip. I'm just using the side. The reason why I'm using the side is because that's covering a little bit better now that it's going on top of the other colour. I'm not blending it yet, I'll blend it afterwards. Now here we go, I'm going around the edge of the ear, using the tip. Just gently use the tip. Then you can use the side of the pastel tip, just to add a little bit more. Careful you don't cover all the yellow. Oopsie. I'll just move it down a bit. Sorry about that. Oh my goodness, I'll just give you a minute to look at it. I just realised it was going out of the camera shot. So we're just coming around the edge. That's all we're doing, we're just going around the edge. Now come along down here with me into a little chubby cheeks. Oh, I just love our little cheeks. Down we go. Not right to the edge, remember. Just press super softly, okay? Very, very soft. Now I'm using the flat part, the big flat area. Look how quickly it covers. Just going around the form. Now at this stage, your drawing might look a little bit messy, but don't worry, have faith, it's going to all come together. This is just the underlayers. Just press very softly now as you come under here, because we don't want it to be quite as dark. Just a little tiny bit, just a little bit across the bridge of her nose there. And a little tiny bit on the tip. Don't you just love her cute little nose? This is an original character of mine. Her name is Daisy Nibbles, and she'll be starring in my very first upcoming children's picture book. Many of you who know me from drawpj.com, been a fine artist for many years, and now I'm doing children's book illustration, and I just love these little characters. So I'm working on the Cuddly Cat series. Now, as I'm making my way down, I still haven't blended, I'll be back there in a minute. I want you to come under here, underneath her little sleeve, and give that little bit of shadow under there. So just coming along there, and now, as we go through the arm, remember we're not going right to the edge. We're not shading right to the edge with our shadows because we're leaving that little bit of glow. It'll all make sense once we blend it in. A little tiny bit of shadow under here, a little bit here, a little bit around the edge, and a touch there. So can you see the shadow pattern that's evolving? All of the shadows are on the back here of the form because the light is lighting up this way here. So now we're making our way down to the little legs. Hopefully you can see it nice and clearly. I'm just colouring in underneath her legs. I'm using the tip because it's around the edge. So remember that your tip is for doing your line work, and then you switch it over to cover larger areas. Like I said before, if you're using colour pencil, do exactly the same thing. You just won't be blending afterwards. Instead of blending, you know how I'm blending with the cotton bud? Instead of blending, what you can do to get a smoother look, it takes a lot more time, but you can do this afterwards. You just simply use the tip of your pencil and you just go in and you fill the page a lot more than what I'm doing. You know, you just slowly fill it like that, a lot more than what I am. But with pastels, you can just leave it on the surface. Now, I've got some of the yellow on that end of my cotton bud, so I'm going to use the other end. It's really good to take note of what colour you have on your cotton bud, because that way there's less wastage. Because you can use the same cotton bud for the same colour. Now, I'm just blending it in, being very careful not to go too much into that yellow colour. Look at that once you blend it. It's just gorgeous, isn't it? I love pastels. They're absolutely beautiful. So I'm just going around her eye, being careful to leave that. I'm leaving that little glowing patch around her eye. This is not very fussy and doesn't take very long. But while you're waiting, if you're using coloured pencil, just do what I said before. If you're waiting for me, whenever I'm blending, just use the tip of your coloured pencil and just fill in the page more. You can just use little circular motions. Now we're coming down to a little arm. It's actually really quite quick to do this blending. Miss Daisy Nibbles has been very busy painting all these little Easter eggs, ready to give out in Cuddlesville. Now I'm just doing the legs, and we're just about to start the final shadow, and then the fur will be done. Can you believe it? It's that quick. Let's move on to chocolate. Oh my gosh, how appropriate. It's Easter and I'm using chocolate. Haha, love this colour. It's beautiful. Now, what we're going to do is, just make sure that's in the shot first of all for you. Now, we're going to be colouring inside the really deep part of her ear. I'll just show you the final drawing again so you can see. So we're colouring this deeper part of the ear first, then we're going to follow around where the dark shadow is in her ears. Then we'll move into the arms. Can you see where those are? And then we're going to move finally down to the feet, just adding the shadows. And then Miss Daisy Nibbles will be just about done, all her fur, and then we'll be moving on to her dress. Okay, so let's do that. Now, first of all, I'm going to start by colouring inside the ear, using the tip, just going around the edge. I hope you're all keeping up okay. You know, are you finding it okay to keep up? If not, like I said, you can watch the replay. I'm using the flat part now of my pencil. Oh, and I'll be so excited to see your Daisy Nibbles too if you complete them. I really hope you share them into the Art of Wellness group. It'll be really great. It'll be lovely to see them all finished. You might want to make it into an Easter card and send it off to someone or give it to someone. So see, I'm coming down now with the shading. A little tiny bit of shading back here. Don't go all the way up the ear, just a little bit. See, throughout the whole process, I'm leaving the lighter area around the edge. This time I'm going to go in just a little bit closer within the shaded area. So now you're going to see two bits. You're going to see a bit of the golden colour I used first, the yellow ochre, and then you're going to see the terracotta and then the brown, because we're going to soften it in afterwards with our cotton bud. And just put a little tiny bit under her choppy chin there, a little tiny bit. Don't you just love bunnies? I love Easter, like little Easter bunnies. I think they're fun and wonderful. Down we come. Tiny, tiny bit under her chin, just a little bit. Just following the shape of the shadows, just to make sure that it all looks like it's more three-dimensional. Little tiny bit on her nose. And a little bit of shadow in there. So it kind of still looks messy, but remember, I'm going to be blending that. And if you're doing this with coloured pencil and you feel that yours is looking messy, just roll your tip over, use your tip, and just fill in any little areas with your tip that look a little bit messy. And it's just because some of the paper is left behind, so don't worry about that too much. Now we're just going to create a little shadow under here. Just using the side of the tip. Coming around, scooting across the surface. I'm barely touching it. A few strokes up there. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to blend. I just get that way that I just get so itchy to blend. I've just got to blend. Yay, at last I get to blend. Okay, here we go. Now, I've obviously used that cotton bud with two other colours, so I need a new cotton bud. Here we go. Now when you blend, make sure that you don't drag too much of the dark colour up into the light, okay? So what we're going to do instead is we're going to drag the light down into the edge here, just a little bit around the edge first, and then make your way down into the dark. Remember, you can use little circular directions. Now remember, if you're using normal coloured pencils, you don't blend. You don't need to blend because the pigment won't blend with the cotton bud. Just turning it over. Look at that. She just starts to come to life. I hope you're enjoying your drawing, your little Easter bunny. Again, we're just following the form. And the fur is just about done there. I couldn't wait to blend this. I was supposed to go down and put more shadows in the arms and legs, but no, I just could not wait. It made it look like she had some sort of mud mask on. I didn't want that. So there we go. There we go. That part of the fur is practically finished. Now I can see already that I just need to add a little tiny bit more yellow. So this is the yellow ochre. This is your P580. So it's just a little bit of that lovely light brown. I'm just going to add a little bit more there because it's just a tiny bit too light. You can do that too, if you need to. And putting a little tiny bit now, very, very little bit on that ear. Tiny, tiny bit around the edge there. And that's always a good idea to do that towards the end, just to touch that up. Checking I've got the right cotton bud. Just leaving a little bit of the white there. Do you know what I'm really excited about though? I want to go back and do that eye later. I'm going to just wait. I'm going to stay focused. Back to my chocolate brown. Here we go. We're back to chocolate brown, everybody. We're going to be doing the arms now. So here we go. Just doing the little arm. Put that little shadow underneath. I just had a horrible thought. I hope you saw when I coloured that ear then, that ear there. It's a bit hard to sort of keep it in the shot all the time. Now look, if you're using pastels, make sure you press super lightly. Do you know, I just love the delicacy of the touch of these pastel pencils. I'm just scooting that along there. They last and last too, which is very exciting. I do love colour pencil too and use a lot of colour pencil. My favourite's Colour Soft, Derwent Colour Soft. There we go. I'm just putting that little tiny bit of shadow there. A little bit of shadow at the back of the fingers. You know, and these little folds here of the fingers. Just that little tiny bit. Just at the back. You've got to always think that the light is coming from this side, so everything on the opposite side is what is in shadow, or underneath her little arm there. And then the shadow beneath the leg. Oh, another thing that I forgot to do, and I forgot to tell you about, was that while you're doing Miss Daisy Nibbles' fur, you can actually colour the Easter basket at the same time. I'll just quickly do that in a minute, but you can actually colour it because I use the same colours. So we'll do that in just a second. There we go. Remember to just put your darker colours just behind the toes here. A little bit of shadow along the side here, like that. Give you a moment to look at that bit of shadow I've put on. And actually, while you're still doing that, I'm going to blend. Make sure I've got my chocolate. Gosh, just saying that word makes me hungry. Oh, I just love chocolate. Can't eat very much of it though. Only a little bit. I bet everybody's looking forward to chocolate Easter eggs. So here we go. I'm just blending that a little bit. Look how much that covers. It's amazing, isn't it? Now your little Daisy Nibbles Easter bunny should be starting to come together. That fur. And like I said, if you're using colouring in pencils, then you can just put a little bit more on, a little bit more layers on. I'm just adding a tiny bit more of that yellow ochre again, remember, like I did up the top. Just skimming it across the surface. Don't put too much, otherwise it'll look too yellowish. I'm just skimming it across the surface and then blending that in. Not all of it, just a little bit, still leaving a touch of white highlight. There you go, her fur is done. Now I'm going to go into the basket. So to colour the basket, you can just take your yellow ochre. I'm going over the whole basket with yellow ochre. So you can do that too. Now the beauty of having this printed outline is that you can just colour straight over the top. You don't colour inside all of these little tiny markings. Oh my goodness, that would drive me potty. I don't know about you, but that would just be too much. So I love it that we can just go over the top. And then just go very, very softly. I'm doing circular motions here for pastels. You can do that too with your colour pencil. Go very softly as you come here into the lighter area, almost barely, just barely touching the page. Once again, we grab our cotton bud and just blend. You might be asking, well, why am I blending? We're blending so that the pastel pigment fits into the paper and it fills all the little white spaces. There we go. So that's the first layer. Now we're going to do the medium tone. Remember your terracotta. So this is going to be towards the back of the little basket, because remember the light is coming from the front, from the side, front and side. Now under here, there's a shadow underneath because the light is touching the top of the basket, so your little bit of shadow will be just underneath. And on this side, because the light's coming from here, a little bit of shadow at the back and a bit of shadow underneath. You can just put a very quick little bit of shadow there, and I'm just going to blend that. Now if I move a little bit quickly, it's because I can see that time's getting on. And just remember that you can watch the recording afterwards. It's just that pastels move a lot quicker than what coloured pencils do. So everybody using pastels might be able to keep up. I'm not sure, but you can do your best. But if you find I'm going too fast, please just watch the replay. So I'll just put a little bit around the back. I'm only touching the surface using my cotton bud. I just love that wonder of watching it all take shape and all coming together. And I hope you're enjoying it too. Right, now we're going to move into her dress, which is very exciting. The first colour we're going to use for her dress is the cyan, and it is P340. It's a pale blue. So with this one here, the first thing we're going to do is her little collar. So you can just very, very lightly put an angle like that on her collar. See how it dips down? That's because it's a little shadow. So you can just do a little angle there. I'm using the tip and then a bit of shading underneath the collar. Just come out a little bit of distance there and colour that kind of shape like that. See how I've left a bit of white there and a little bit of white here. Doing a little bit of shading over there. Just press lightly with your blue because the dress is actually going to be purple. She's got a beautiful purple dress. I'm just putting the blue on first. This is an undercoat because I want the purple to be a lovely, beautiful, beautiful purple colour. And it's going to be shimmering, as you know. You've seen the, I'll just show you again so you know what we're aiming for. So we're first of all going to be putting the blue on, and these areas, her little collar and her little sleeves, as well as the little sash, they're supposed to be lighter. I say little a lot, don't I? Oh well, never mind. It is little. Well, anyway, I've got to think of another word. But her collar and her sleeves and sash are going to be a bit lighter than the rest of the dress. So we're just making our way through now with a very light touch. Once again, remember what I taught you about the fur, how we just go around the edge of the form. Let's do that now. We just colouring around the shapes. Just go around the shapes. This one's a bit bigger. Just make it like a J, reverse J, or like a C, I guess. We're just going around the edge. Just bring some up a little bit around here. This is a bit fiddly, this area. I hope you can see it. So that's the kind of shape that I've done. I've just gone around the edge of the little sleeve. That's all that I'm doing. And I'm not going right up to the edge. Just going around the edge. And now under here, imagine this is the shadows. Wherever you see it dip down, you can put a little bit of colouring in there where it dips down. All the down dips, they get shadows. And underneath, some shadow. Move along over here, bit of shadow. Bit of shadow under this fold. All we're doing is just adding the shadows. Then flip your pencil over to use that large flat area, remember, of the chisel point tip. Even if you're using colour pencils, you can still do this. Have very little pressure now as we're moving in here because we want this to be lighter. Very little pressure. And also a bit of shadow at the base of the bow. Both ends, a little bit of shadow. Leave the middle so that you've got a little bit of highlight there. Some highlight. And some shadow at the back of the buttons as well will be good. And then you can make your way down. We're just putting all of the first layer on. Just a little bit in the shadows. See how I'm leaving the white again? Notice where I've got all those white areas left. They're the highlights. Now we're just coming down in through her dress. Just scooting down and then flicking back up from the bottom. This is a very beautiful colour. It's really good for just going underneath your purple. Now here, I'm leaving a highlight right through this area because remember the light is shining on her from here. And I'm leaving this highlight. So all this area here is going to be in highlight. You just got to use your imagination and think that these areas are in shadow. In behind here, that's a shadow. But this first layer just needs to be really light. I just love this colour. Do you know what? I'm so excited though for the purple. I can't wait for purple. Can anyone guess that purple's my favourite colour? Yes, because look at drawpj.com. It's purple. I love purple. I love purple and pink. Oh my goodness, I like every colour, but I really, really love purple. So across I'm coming now. Again, I'm just keeping it light. And now I get to blend. Oh, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll do the Easter egg at the same time because there are two little blue Easter eggs. You can do that as well. Just a light layer of blue on the Easter eggs. We're going to build up their shadows after. There we go. Now the cotton bud. This is almost like magic. Look at that. It's beautiful. Straight away, you've created form when you use that blending. I love the little cute little puffy sleeves, don't you? Look at that. Just that little bit of blending. Barely touching the surface. So for everyone using colour pencil, you just keep on colouring while I'm doing this. Because we're just a little bit slower with the coloured pencil. That's perfectly okay. Your picture will be gorgeous too. Don't worry. It will be absolutely gorgeous. It's coming through the sash. Oh, might as well do the little egg while I'm there. Oh, don't forget those areas in there. I do that every time. I think miss little tiny areas and have to go back and do them. But go back in there. That has to be her dress. See those little gaps? That's her little dress. I can't wait to see what you've all done. I'm really excited to see lots and lots of little Miss Daisy Nibbles. And you know what? You might want to do her with a different coloured dress even. Imagine that. Or imagine if you had a family of kids and you're all doing different colours. All the colours of the rainbow. Imagine that. That'd be beautiful, wouldn't it? Everyone does a different coloured dress. I'd love to see that. Or then you could cut them out and put them like on a little banner thing, couldn't you? That would be fun. Decorate the house. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to move into just a little tiny bit of the dark blue. This is the ultramarine. Again, just establishing some shadows, but only a touch in her collar because it is meant to be lighter than the rest of the dress. Just a little bit, just underneath here, you know that you could feel, imagine there's a shadow there. So anywhere that you feel there's going to be a shadow, just underneath here, little tiny bit of shadow. You only need to put a little tiny bit of this dark. So the light's coming from here, so the shadows are going to be behind that. So everything on the other side is in shadow. It's a little bit hard to guess shadows or to understand exactly where they are. So probably the best thing to do is just copy and follow wherever I'm doing the shadows if you're not really familiar with shadows. A little bit darker under here. Just a touch. Little tiny bit of shadow there. And the really exciting thing about this is that we're going to make an album. There'll be an album for you to share all the Daisy Nibbles. Oh my gosh, that's going to be so good to see. So Judith will help you with that. She'll tell you what you need to do for the album. And then we'll be able to see all the Daisy Nibbles. I'm actually hoping that some people have a try at doing her even with a different dress, like have a couple of goes at it. Wouldn't that be fun? Like this could just be your first, like your practice maybe, and then you choose the colour dress you want. Oh my gosh, that would be so good. So here we go. I'm only putting a little bit of blue because I really want to get into the purple. But this will help to give it that shimmer. I'm doing this also just a bit up from the edge. Remember we did that with her shadows on the fur. We coloured the darker one a bit up from the edge. So I'm doing that again here. We just leave that little glow around the edge. That's to help give her that three-dimensional sort of feel and look. And then the purple will come in and darken it even more into the shadows. Look at that shadow back in behind that fold. Oh, I love some of those shadows. And again, we're just scooting across. Just following the form. Oh, a bit of shadow in here. You can go a bit darker in there. A bit of shadow in there. And a little bit more there. And now we'll just put it in the base of the Easter eggs as well. Just a little bit of shadow. Don't have to overdo it with the shadows. Keep the light. A bit more in here. There we go. Now that's all you need to do for that layer of blue, and we're just going to blend again. So here we go. Oh my gosh, that's the wrong colour. The other end. It's very quick to blend this with pastels. You just basically touch it. Don't overdo it. This is why I love pastel pencils so much, can you tell? And the reason why I really got involved with coloured pastels, not coloured pastels, pastels, is because I am writing my children's picture book and illustrating it, and there's a lot of images, and I want consistency. I also want to move fairly quickly through the images, so I've chosen pastels. I just love pastels. Now you can use pastels on all different types of paper too. You can try it on different papers just to see how you feel about them. Different papers with more texture. There we go, a bit more shadow. And now, at long last, I get to add purple. My goodness, it felt like ages that I had to wait for my purple, but really it's not. Here we go. This is Violet, P260. This is the most gorgeous colour. Now you watch her little dress just sparkle and just come to life with this addition of purple. Here we go. Just that little bit of purple. Down we go. Again, it's into the shadows. Imagine this is like the dark chocolate that you added to her fur. But this time we're just adding that darker shadow into her dress, and we're giving it colour as well at the same time. So we're giving shadow, but we're also changing the whole colour into purple. It's going to be a gorgeous blue purple, like one of those pretty shimmering blue purple gowns that you may have seen at some stage in your life. Beautiful shimmer. Nice deep shadow in there. Be very, very light as you come across this area here. Don't press too hard or you lose all that blue from underneath. So just go really careful and really slowly now. Add your shadows. Soon we're going to be doing the eggs too, and we're nearly done now. You can colour your Easter eggs any colour you like. It doesn't really matter. I've just chosen a simple purple, pinky purple and orange, because orange is actually the opposite to blue on the colour wheel, and yellow is the opposite to purple, so I thought they'd stand out nicely against the blue and purple. Little tiny bit skimming across here. Press a tiny bit harder and add a bit more into the folds to really create those shadows. Don't press too hard though, your pastels will break. The delicate little things. Just a touch harder. Give it that bit of shadow. Oh, and by the way, if you get these loose particles, sometimes every now and then, you can just flick them out the way. If you've got a little brush, just flick them out the way. Or sometimes you can even use one of these too. This is just a little thing that you use to clean cameras with. Another thing I wanted to tell you too is that if you don't have cotton buds, you can blend with the outside of your finger. I forgot to tell you that before. Don't use all these fingers because they're more waxy or oily than the little finger. So you can just use your little finger to blend with, just the outside of it, or even a paper stump too. So I need a new cotton bud for purple. Here we go. Just blending that last layer now. Ta-da! You can see the sparkle. Look at that. Oh, I just love that sparkle. That beautiful purple. Who loves purple? Does anybody else love purple? Is it just me? And with these darker areas here, just press softly so you can leave the pigment on the page. Coming down. She's nearly done, and then we're going to be onto her, colouring her little eggs, which take a few minutes. Bit of shadow in there. I'm just skimming the surface, like I said before, very, very lightly. Just a very little bit, and it really covers a lot. Even with your coloured pencils, you can do the same thing. Just skim across the surface. Just add a bit more if you need to. I'm just blending in the direction of the folds, and I'm not overdoing it. If you overwork it, it'll just go all flat. So you just have to barely touch the surface and you'll keep that wonderful glowing sparkle. I'm also going to put some shadows into the base of the blue Easter eggs. And now we're just going to finish up by adding the little pink bit on her nose. Got to have this little pink bit here. First of all, it's a bit bright. This is the magenta, but I am going to add white next. Just across the tip, you can do that too. Can you believe it? I didn't do the eye. Oh my goodness. So the eye, this is the fun part. You can change the colour of her eye if you want and do it a different colour. I've just got some chocolate and a little tiny bit of terracotta. She's got a little brown eye, but you can do it whatever colour you like. And her little eyelid, I'm just going to give it a little tiny bit of pink and a bit of white. Just blending it in. Okay, so I had terracotta and chocolate in the eye, pink and white on the nose. Now I'm going to move into my Easter eggs. These can be done so super easily, which is really fun. We just get the shadow. I've just put shadow around the base of these little ones. Put a bit more shadow around there. And then we're going to do this pinky purple one. So I'm starting with the shadow on the bottom here. But like I said before, you can colour these eggs any colour you like. And now I'm going to put some pink in with that colour. That's an orange one. And then blend it. Not with a brown, that would be horrible. Blend it very easily with your cotton bud. Now the final two, and they're with orange, so you can just put some orange on those. A little bit more orange in there. And these are going to absolutely sparkle when we add the yellow, giving it that life. Here we go, and you can blend it. Oops, not with purple. That would be a very big muddy mess. You've got to be careful not to blend too many colours together with pastels, otherwise they can be muddied. I've actually given mine a little bit more depth with a bit of the magenta, just for a little finishing touch. A little bit of magenta there. And a touch more orange. By the way, you can blend pastels too without any stump, without any finger, just by blending it with itself, which is another tip for you. Right, now, that's about it. Now, I'm just going to zoom out so that you can see the whole little bunny. There she is, Miss Daisy Nibbles. I hope you've had a wonderful time. I'm just going to turn the camera around now. 1 second. Oh my goodness, where's the button? There it is. Sorry about that. It took a little while to get the camera to look right at me. Whoops. This is not my usual equipment, so it's all a bit fiddly. Okay, so I've finished her now, and I hope you all had a wonderful time and you managed to finish yours, or at least get a fair way through. And I can't wait to see some of yours. So make sure that you share them, and Judith will explain how to put them into the folder, into the album. And yeah, happy Easter everybody. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. And Miss Daisy Nibbles says bye for now. Thank you all for watching. Bye everybody.